تقرير مجد كيلاني report, and now we welcome our guest. Thank you very much for the second time, David Wooding, political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Britain's best read newspapers on Sunday. Am I right, or am I right?
You are right, and it's good to be here, as always.
Yes. Very much. We've been talking about, well, first about Bruce Forsyth. You know, he died, I mean, obviously, and I saw him before you. I'm older than you. How is he stand in Liverpool? Is he popular?
Well, I mean, he's what we call a national treasure. He's one of these people who has been in our lives, whatever age you are. He was 89 when he died, and this is a man who was famous from being a teenager. He was doing doing the old variety shows. Then when TV was in its infancy, the old black and white square boxes, he was the star of Saturday night and Sunday night television. There was a programme called Sunday Night at the London Palladium.
Right,
he used to be the compere of this show, and it was a must-watch. And in those days, when you only had 1 or 2 channels, there were millions of people watching because there wasn't
no
a big
other
choice. There was nobody else to watch, and millions sat around the TV.
And he never reinvented himself. He remained the same.
Well, he did, and he didn't, Adele. He didn't reinvent himself. He was the same old Brucey with the same catchlines. Nice to see you, to see you, nice. And good game, bit of fun. Didn't he do well? All those sort of things. But he became a game show host. When the variety sort of was in its wane and there was no need for variety shows.
He did have a good news for you.
Yeah, he became a comedian, stand-up comedian. He went on quiz shows. And then latterly he was on Strictly Come Dancing, which was one of these reality shows. So he kept reinventing himself within the medium, but it was still the same.
It's still the same old. Yeah. Now that changes. Your brilliant story on The Sun on Sunday, Big Ben. Isn't it sad? Big Ben silent.
Yes.
And that's there.
The row seems to be that nobody knew this was going to happen. They suddenly decide that the clock tower needed renovating. We saw all this scaffolding starting to go up on the outside, and then suddenly somebody announced, we are going to silence the bell.
You saw the back of it from your office. I see the front of it from my office.
Yes. I mean, it's a reminder when I'm late for appointments. If I'm late to come to
the bongs
show,
will actually...
The bongs will remind me, but they've been switched off for 4 years, and people say, hang on a minute, nobody told us about this. And it was done, it was seen by the officials who were given carte blanche by
the Speaker.
Committee.
The Speaker seems to be modernising actually beyond the recognition. I mean, you actually give him a good, I'm going to say, bong.
Yes. Well, yes, I mean, it turns out that the Speaker, who's quite a diminutive chap, he's 5'4", I think, and he's married to a rather tall, statuesque lady called Sally Burke.
Sexual climber.
And, yes, and... Sally said in an interview that she will miss Big Ben, it seems, because she finds living under the clock tower with those chimes every hour rather sexy. She says, I find it quite sexy living there with this big tower.
Right, hormones sort of ignited by sound. Speaking about sound and hormones, I mean, what do you think of this sort of new hate crime thing? Is it a way by the... celebrities and politicians try to censor, is it censorship of the social media?
Well, we've always had hate crime in this country. I mean, if somebody commits an offence which is
based on race,
offensive or on race or religion and is violent towards somebody, then that is a crime of violence. But if it's aggravated by racist thoughts, then that aggravates the sentence. It makes the sentence more severe. And it's quite right that should be the case. However, there seems to be some double speak when it comes to social media, because people feel that they can let rip with people, and yet when they get into a bit of trouble, they don't like it themselves.
Yeah. I mean, like celebrities sort of attacking President Trump on Twitter all the time, and they cry foul when someone criticizes them.
And there are borders. Sometimes it's quite right that people should be able to criticise democratically elected politicians, and that we should be able to criticise celebrities. But I mean, the celebrities don't like it when we criticise them, but they like to make their political points. As long as they don't go into hatred and incitement towards violence and hatred, I think it's okay to criticise. But you know, it's where the line is. If you start being abusive and aggressive and overly threatening, then that's wrong.
I'm thick-skinned and too old to notice.
Broad-shouldered too.
Good time to take a break. الآن نأتي استراحة قصيرة. ابقوا معنا. And now we welcome back David Woodings. Are we going back in time when Labour MPs suggest women-only trains?
Well, yes, this is the Labour MP Chris Williamson, who wants to have women-only carriages on trains, and there's been a bit of a kerfuffle in the Commons over this, because some women think it is taking us back in time and segregating the sexes in the UK when we're fully.
Yeah, but you see, that's because they actually remove the guard from the trains.
Yes, yes, but it's the idea he thinks is to make it safer for women, but all it does is to put them
reinforce
into
the idea.
The idea, and we used to have them back in the 19th century. There was one case. Back in Liverpool during the First World War, where there were two nuns sitting in a women-only carriage, and it turns out they were German spies dressed up as nuns. So I mean, what are we going to get if we go back to this? And it's a disgrace. It's quite insulting to women and to men, and to suspect that men are so violent in this country that women have to sit in a carriage of their own.
Well, speaking actually of time backward and forward, we've seen a clip of Prince William, bless his heart, and Prince Harry. You remember the funeral there 20 years ago, and how everyone's heart was going out to Harry and William, and they were really, really held up themselves, you know. And I don't know what you think when he said, it's going to make me or break me. I'm not going to cry. He didn't cry. My generation saluted it.
Yes, well, I mean, looking back, those boys were only 15 and 13,
That's right,
and they'd lost their mother, and they had the eyes of not only the whole country on them, but of the whole world. There must have been millions and millions of people watching that funeral. There was some, we're learning now on the 20th anniversary of Diana's sad death, that there was some political manoeuvrings about them walking behind the coffin, which was a big thing to do.
Yeah, you did a lot of stuff on that one as well.
Somebody was suggesting it was Prince Philip who wanted them. Others were saying that Tony Blair, who was then the Prime Minister, wanted him to do it, and that Philip had told him to take a running jump. But either way, they ended up doing it, and there were negotiations that led to these two boys doing that. Now, I mean, imagine doing that behind your mother's coffin, even without people watching.
But you know, that's what you expect from the future king.
Exactly. So make me or break me it describes it extremely well, because you know it was duty over their own personal feelings.
Absolutely.
And that
which is the Queen generation, my mother's generation,
Yes.
probably your mother's generation. That's it. But you see, times are changing now. If we can show our viewers, here we are. See this great story there. The President Alistair Stewart, who is an ITN presenter, waiting to interview a mother, and then look at the child actually climbing.
Yes.
That made the whole news.
Well, what I noticed, interesting, this is a picture that all British viewers will know, because this is the TV news set, just as well known as this set to your viewers. And there she is climbing over the top. What I thought was interesting was that a little brother, I think it is sitting there, well-behaved, perfectly well-behaved. I hope he got an extra packet of sweets. And I hope there's nobody over there at the moment to jump over and climb on your set.
Actually, we had Sean Dilly and his dog, our colleague. But also the signs of times changing here, which I think the Sun did a big thing on it, is actually Wayne Rooney retiring. I think our viewers also know of Wayne. Well, you are a big football expert with Liverpool. What do you think of Wayne?
Well, he's a Liverpudlian. He didn't play for Liverpool. He played for Everton, the rival team who play in blue. But exactly. But he was brought up as an Evertonian, and he did go off to play for Manchester United, and now has just recently re-signed for Everton. A story which was broken exclusively in the Sun. But he's had an England career spanning 14 years, which he's played 119 times, with 57 goals. I think it's 53 goals, 53 goals. And he's only a few games, about 6 or 7 games short of being the all-time most capped player. Peter Shilton, the goalkeeper, has about 6 or 7 more caps than him. So he's leaving at a time when he could, if he went to the World Cup next year in Russia, he could perhaps break that record. But on the other hand, he knows that the current manager, Gareth Southgate, doesn't really have him at the front of his plans, and he thinks, I don't want to be a bit part player. So he's stepping out at the top.
But Gary Lineker thinks is a good decision he made.
Yes, well, footballers will be divided. Some will say he should have gone out in a blaze of glory next year. It's sad for him and other footballers that they didn't win anything with England, but you know they've had a lead.
I was very angry with him. I was researching my book in Kuwait when it was, I think, 2010, the World Cup in South Africa. And England lost, and he missed quite a few goals.
He's been a controversial player, but he has been a prolific goal scorer.
And I think one of the stories, again in the Sun, is one of the things that the council actually would do. I don't know if you have seen this one. This bloke, they were about to do some work outside his house, and he left his Audi there, and then they came and dug around it. He can't move it, and the council keeps giving him a ticket every day.
Well, these are what we call jobs worths. You know, it's more than my job's worth to not to give you a ticket. And the poor chap stuck there. What can he do? Can't even use his car.
I think you got some stories as well. I don't know if it's actually the Sun on Sunday or it's absolutely brilliant stories where I think it could be in the Sun on Sunday. I think they have how the council actually do the jobs in roadworks. With it, yeah, here we are.
Yes,
it's actually the Sun on Sunday there, and if we could show it to our viewers, this one here. They did the road work around this car and left the car there. They surfaced the road, and
then the yellow line goes round. So one assumes you've got a small enough car, you can still park there without getting a ticket.
A bike.
Yes.
Here's another one today about the cyclist. You know the story of the cyclist who knocked
the brakes
and knocked the woman over. There is actually a petition now to get MPs to bring cycling under the Road Traffic Act. What do you think of that?
Well, yes, in London now it's become a cycling city and there are cycling lanes. And most cyclists, it has to be said, behave perfectly reasonably. And cycling is dangerous because you can be knocked over by lorries and cars. There have been some terrible accidents involving cyclists. But there are a small minority, we call them lycra louts because they wear these lycra gear and they think that they own the road and they don't like pedestrians. Well, you know, we're all road users, whether you're on a horse, walking or in a car. And, you know, if cyclists expect lorries and cars to pay them respect and behave sensibly, then cyclists should behave sensibly towards pedestrians. You know, we can't hear them coming because they don't have a.
You mean we are pedestrians are
on
the sort of the bottom of the food chain?
Yes, but I mean, if you get hit by a cyclist travelling at some speed, it could be quite dangerous.
My next door neighbour, actually, that lady died. She died from it, died in hospital, but she was knocked over by it. Were you actually in the press gallery lunch when I asked Goldsmith when he was standing as a mayor of London? Will he going to put license plates on cyclists?
That would be a good idea, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is now, for everybody on the road, not the problem, the good thing is that we've got cameras everywhere. So a lot of people who do this sort of behaviour are on film. And in fact, I see cars with video cameras in the back window.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And you see cyclists with cameras in their helmets. So you have to be very careful. If you misbehave behind the wheel or on foot or do anything in the road, the chances are overwhelming that somebody is going to get you. But even if they don't, there's going to be somebody who's pulled out their phone out of their pocket and are taping what's going on. So you have to be very careful.
Privacy is going. But how can you enforce it without actually license plate, microchip?
Well, I think the law as we have it is there. You have to behave according to the laws of the road, and if you break those rules, you're caught. The only thing is, how do you catch them? There are usually witnesses to do that, and there are sentences to deal with them.
Campaign in the Sun for bringing cyclists under the...
Yeah, well, the thing that is, it's probably just a London problem or big city problem. I mean, there are lots of cyclists around London because it's a quicker way to get around. If you go up to your northern cities like Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, there are people on bikes, but people are still using cars because it's not as congested.
Thank you very much, David Woodings. And here you are, George Osborne. You're most welcome to come on the programme. It's a London problem, Evening Standard. هذا كل ما عندنا، ونشوفكم الاسبوع الجاي، وما تنسوش تتابعونا على التويتر @AdelDarwish وعلى الفيسبوك من لندن. الى اللقاء.